The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their empire covered more than 300 star systems. They had conquered dozens of species and brought them all under their control. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever tried. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Blade. He was old by standards, with skin that had turned almost silver from age. He had led more than 50 conquest missions in his long career. Each one had ended the same way. The primitive species saw his ships, understood they could not win, and surrendered. It was always easy. His science officer, a young female named Vox, approached him with a data pad in her hands. Her face showed excitement. "Admiral, we have found another world," she said. "A small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Initial scans show it has a large population of intelligent beings. They call themselves humans." Took the data pad and looked at the images. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. Green and brown continents stretched across the rest. It looked peaceful from space. "Technology level?" he asked. "Pre-interstellar," replied. "They have basic space flight. They have visited their moon and sent machines to nearby planets, but they have no faster-than-light travel. They are still trapped in their own system." The Admiral smiled. This was exactly what he liked to hear. A species advanced enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to fight back. They would make good workers for the Dominion. "Send a scout vessel," he ordered. "Full survey. I want to know everything about this world before we arrive." The scout ship left the fleet 3 days later. It was a small vessel with a crew of only 12. Their mission was simple: go to the human planet, study their civilization, and report back. The whole thing should take no more than a few weeks. On Earth, it was a normal Tuesday morning when the first alarms went off. Commander Lisa Monroe was working at her station in the United States Space Force Monitoring Center in Colorado. She had been tracking satellites and space debris for most of her career. It was usually boring work. Nothing interesting ever happened. But today, something very interesting was happening. "Sir, you need to see this," she called to her supervisor. Major Ford walked over to her station. He was a calm man who never got excited about anything. But when he saw what was on her screen, his eyes went wide. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "An object entering our solar system," Lisa said. "It came from deep space. It is moving faster than anything we have ever seen. And, sir, it is slowing down." Ford understood what that meant. Asteroids and comets did not slow down. Only ships did that. "Get me a direct line to Space Command," he said. "Now." Within 6 hours, the leaders of every major nation on Earth had been told the news. An alien vessel was approaching their planet. It was not a theory anymore. It was not a question of if life existed out there. The answer had arrived at their doorstep. The scout ship entered Earth orbit on a Wednesday afternoon. The crew began their scans immediately. They expected to find a typical primitive world. Divided nations, basic technology, no real threat. That was what they always found. What they actually found made them stop and check their equipment. "This cannot be right," said the lead analyst, a thin named Noor. He ran the scans again. The results were the same. "What is wrong?" asked the ship's captain. Noor turned to face him. His face had gone pale. "Captain, this planet is covered in weapons," he said. "Not just military bases, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear devices, thousands of them, enough to destroy the entire surface of their own world many times over." The captain moved to look at the data himself. He saw the nuclear silos spread across multiple continents. He saw the submarines carrying missiles hidden in the oceans. He saw the bomber aircraft ready to take off at a moment's notice. He saw satellite networks designed to detect and respond to attacks. "They are at war?" he asked. "No, Captain, that is the strange part. They are at peace. Or at least they are not currently fighting a major conflict. But they maintain all of these weapons anyway. They point them at each other. They live under the constant threat of destroying themselves. The captain did not understand. In all of history, no species had ever done this. Weapons were built to fight enemies. Once peace came, weapons were put away. Why would any sane civilization keep enough firepower to end all life on their planet? "Continue the survey," he ordered. "I want to understand these creatures." Over the next few days, the crew studied human history. What they learned disturbed them deeply. The humans had been fighting wars since the beginning of their civilization. They fought over land. They fought over resources. They fought over ideas. They fought over gods. Sometimes they fought for no clear reason at all. War was woven into every part of their culture. And with each war, they built better weapons. They had started with sticks and stones. Then came metal blades. Then came guns that fired small projectiles. Then came explosives. Then came bombs that could level entire cities. Then came nuclear weapons that could poison the land for generations. Each time they found a new way to kill, they did not stop. They built more. They built bigger. They made their weapons faster and more accurate. They created delivery systems that could strike anywhere on the planet within minutes. Nor spent 3 nights without sleep studying their data. When he finally finished his report, he went to the captain with shaking hands. "Captain, I have completed my analysis," he said. "This species is not like any we have encountered before. They are not a peaceful world waiting to be conquered. They are a planetary arsenal. Every nation, every government, every military on that planet is ready for war at any moment." The captain read the report carefully. His face grew more serious with each page. "Recommendation?" he asked. Nor hesitated. He knew what he should say. He should recommend that the Dominion fleet arrive and demand surrender as they always did. But something about this world made him afraid. "I recommend caution, Captain," he finally said. "These humans have been preparing for conflict their entire history. I do not think they will surrender easily, and if they fight back, they have the weapons to make it costly for us." The captain nodded slowly. He would send this report to Admiral. The Admiral would decide what to do next. But deep in his heart, the captain had a feeling that this mission would not be like the others. This blue planet with its strange, violent inhabitants was going to be a problem. He just did not know how big a problem yet. The report from the scout ship reached Admiral 2 days later. He read it alone in his private quarters aboard the Eternal Blade. When he finished, he read it again. Then he sat in silence for a long time. In his 50 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. Every other species the Dominion had encountered followed the same pattern. They developed technology slowly. They achieved peace on there. They built small defensive forces to protect against natural disasters or accidents. They were never ready for war. But these humans were different. They had been at war with themselves for their entire existence. They had not achieved peace. They had achieved something else, a kind of armed standoff where everyone was ready to destroy everyone else at any moment. Called a meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the war room, a large circular chamber with screens covering every wall. The Admiral stood at the center and shared the scout ship's findings. "This is the human world," he said, pointing to the display. "Population of 8 billion, over 200 separate nations, and collectively they possess more than 12,000 nuclear weapons." His weapons officer, a veteran named Commander Vex, leaned forward. 12,000, he repeated. "That is enough to destroy their planet dozens of times over. Why would they need so many?" "Because they do not trust each other," the Admiral replied. "Each major nation has its own arsenal. They point these weapons at their neighbors. They have been doing this for almost a century." The room fell silent. This made no sense to their own civilization had unified early in its history. Internal conflict was rare and quickly resolved. The idea of an entire species living under the constant threat of self-destruction was difficult to comprehend. Meanwhile, on Earth, things were moving quickly. The alien vessel had been detected by dozens of nations. The secret was out. World leaders were meeting in emergency sessions. Militaries were on high alert. The people of Earth did not know yet, but their governments were preparing for the worst. Commander Lisa Monroe had been promoted and transferred to a special task force. She now worked directly for General Blake, the head of the United States Space Command. Her job was to track the alien ship and analyze its behavior. "They are just sitting there," she reported during a briefing. "They have been in orbit for 5 days. They scan the surface constantly, but they have not tried to communicate. They have not attacked. They are watching us." General Blake was a tall man with hair and a calm voice. He had served in 3 wars during his career. He knew what it looked like when an enemy was gathering information before a strike. "They are studying us," he said, "learning our weaknesses. When they are ready, they will make their move." In a secret laboratory beneath the Nevada desert, a team of scientists was working around the clock. They had managed to intercept some of the alien ship's transmissions. The signals were encrypted, but they had made progress in decoding them. Dr. Daniel led the team. He was a quiet man who had spent most of his life studying radio signals from space, hopping to find signs of intelligent life. Now that he had found it, he was terrified. "We have decoded about 40% of their communications," he told a group of military officials. "What we have learned is both good and bad." He pulled up a display showing the decoded messages. "The good news is that they seem surprised by us. They expected to find a primitive civilization. They did not expect to find a planet armed to the teeth. Their reports use words that translate roughly to concerned and cautious." A general in the front row spoke up. "And the bad news?" Daniel took a deep breath. "The bad news is that they are part of a much larger empire. Their fleet numbers in the thousands of ships. They have conquered over 300 star systems, and they are deciding right now whether to conquer us." The room erupted in worried voices. Everyone understood what this meant. Earth was not facing a single ship. They were facing an empire that had never been defeated. Back on the High Chancellor Myra convened the Dominion Council. This was the ruling body of the empire, made up of the most powerful leaders from across their territory. They met in a vast chamber carved from white stone, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Chancellor was a female of great age and wisdom. She had led the Dominion for over 100 years. In that time, they had expanded their borders by 40 star systems. She had never seen a reason to stop. But today she was uncertain. "We have received the survey report from the human world," she announced. "It presents us with a unique situation." She activated a holographic display showing Earth and the data collected by the scout ship. "This species has developed weapons of mass destruction on a scale we have never encountered. Their entire civilization is organized around warfare. They spend vast resources maintaining military forces even when they have no external enemy. They train their young for combat. Their entertainment glorifies violence." A council member raised his hand to speak. He was Lord Moth, the head of the Dominion military. "Chancellor, with respect, I do not see the problem. They have nuclear weapons. We have plasma cannons and energy shields. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. They cannot threaten us." Chancellor nodded slowly. "That may be true in a direct fight, but consider this. When we conquer a world, we expect the population to accept our rule. We expect them to become productive members of the Dominion. Can you imagine these humans accepting defeat? Can you imagine them becoming peaceful workers?" Lord Moth opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He had not thought about it that way. Another council member spoke. This was historian, keeper of the Dominion archives. "I have studied the human records extensively," she said. "Their history is fascinating and terrifying. They have never truly stopped fighting. Even in times of so-called peace, they prepare for the next war. They have developed more ways to kill each other than any species in our records, and most disturbing of all, they seem to enjoy it. She activated another display showing scenes from human media, movies about war, games about combat, news coverage of conflicts, sports that simulated battle. They celebrate their warriors. They honor those who die in combat. They teach their children that fighting is noble. This is not a species that will quietly accept conquest. The council chamber was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. The Dominion had grown powerful by conquering worlds that could not fight back. What would happen if they tried to conquer a world that lived for fighting? Chancellor made her decision. We will send a larger force to observe the humans more closely. Admiral will take a battle group to their system. He will assess the situation and recommend our next steps, but he is ordered not to attack unless attacked first. We need more information before we commit to conquest. The council agreed. None of them were ready to admit it out loud, but they were all a little bit afraid. On Earth, the nations of the world were having their own discussions. For the first time in human history, every country faced the same threat. Old enemies found themselves on the same side. Rivals began to share information. A new organization was formed in secret. It was called the United Earth Defense Council. Representatives from every major nation participated. Their goal was simple. If the aliens attacked, humanity would respond together. Commander Lisa Monroe attended the first meeting as a technical advisor. She watched as generals and politicians from countries that had been enemies for decades sat at the same table. They argued. They disagreed. But they also listened to each other. For the first time, Lisa felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this alien threat would do something that humans had never managed on their own. Maybe it would bring them together. But she also knew that hope alone would not stop an alien invasion. They needed weapons. They needed a plan. They needed to be ready. And deep in her heart, she knew they did not have much time. Admiral made a decision that would change the fate of two civilizations. He was tired of waiting. He was tired of studying. The humans were just another primitive species, and primitive species always surrendered when faced with superior force. It was time to show them the power of the Dominion. He ordered 12 warships to Earth. These were not scout vessels. These were Devastator-class battlecruisers, each one capable of destroying a city from orbit. They carried enough firepower to level entire continents. In all of Dominion history, no species had ever survived an attack by even one of these ships. Admiral would bring 12. The fleet traveled through faster-than-light space for 3 days. When they emerged in the human solar system, they did so in perfect formation. The 12 ships arranged themselves in a ring around Earth, each one positioned above a major population center. On Earth, the alarms began immediately. Commander Lisa Monroe was the first to see them appear on her screens. One moment, there was nothing. The next moment, 12 massive objects were in orbit around the planet. Her hands shook as she reached for the alert button. "Multiple contacts," she announced, her voice somehow staying steady. 12 ships. They are taking up positions above major cities." General Blake arrived in the command center within minutes. He looked at the display and felt his blood run cold. New York, Los Angeles, London, Paris, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo, Delhi. The aliens had positioned their ships above the most important cities on Earth. "They are sending a message," he said quietly. "They want us to know they can destroy us." Within the hour, every military on Earth was at maximum alert. Nuclear submarines rose to launch depth. Bomber aircraft took off and circled at high altitude. Missile silos opened their doors. Satellites repositioned to track the alien vessels. Every weapon humanity possessed was made ready. Admiral watched from his flagship as the planet below responded to his arrival. He expected panic. He expected fear. He expected the humans to send desperate messages begging for mercy. Instead, he saw something that made him uncomfortable. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "The humans are not retreating or hiding. They are targeting us." Targeting us with what? The officer pulled up a display showing the planet's surface. Red dots appeared across every continent. Each dot represented a nuclear missile aimed at the sky. "They are pointing their weapons at our ships, Admiral. Thousands of weapons. Our sensors count over 4,000 missiles ready to launch." Stared at the display. This was not the reaction he expected. When faced with overwhelming force, species were supposed to submit. They were not supposed to point their own weapons back. "They are bluffing," he said. "They would not dare attack us." "Admiral, I am not certain that is correct. Their communications are full of military chatter. They are coordinating. Every nation on the planet is working together. They are treating this as a unified defense." The Admiral considered his options. He could open fire and destroy several cities. That would certainly break their will to resist. But as he looked at the tactical display, a cold realization crept over him. If the humans launched their missiles, his fleet would be overwhelmed. His ships had shields, yes. They had point defense weapons that could shoot down incoming projectiles, but they were designed to handle dozens of attacks at once, not thousands. The humans were not fighting like a primitive species. They were fighting like a species that had been preparing for war its entire existence. Because they had been. On the planet below, Captain sat in the command seat of the USS Valiant, one of the largest aircraft carriers in the United States Navy. His ship was in the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by a battle group of destroyers and cruisers. Every weapon was manned. Every sailor was at battle stations. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They are broadcasting on all frequencies." Nodded, put it on speaker. The bridge fell silent as an alien voice filled the air. The words were translated by computer into English, but the meaning was clear. "People of this world, we are the Dominion. We have conquered 300 star systems. No species has ever defeated us. You will surrender your planet to our control immediately. Resistance is pointless. You have 1 hour to respond." Looked around at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else. He saw determination. These were men and women who had signed up to defend their country. Now they were being asked to defend their entire world. "Well," he said calmly, "I guess we have their attention." In Washington, the President of the United States was in a bunker deep beneath the White House. Leaders from around the world were connected by secure video link. This was the moment they had been preparing for since the first alien ship was detected. The president was a woman named Susan Cole. She had been in office for 3 years. She had dealt with economic crises, natural disasters, and international tensions, but nothing had prepared her for this. "They want our surrender," she said to the assembled leaders. "What is our response?" The Russian president spoke first. "We do not surrender, we fight." The Chinese president agreed. "If we submit to these invaders, we lose everything. Our freedom, our future, our dignity. We must resist." One by one, every leader on the call expressed the same sentiment. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth was united in purpose. They would not bow to alien conquerors. President Cole nodded. "Then we are agreed, prepare our response." Exactly 1 hour after the alien ultimatum, a single message was broadcast from Earth to the orbiting fleet. It was translated into every known language and transmitted on every frequency. "This is the United Earth Defense Council. We reject your demands. This planet is ours. If you want it, you will have to take it, and we promise you it will cost you more than you can afford." Admiral heard the message and felt a strange mixture of anger and confusion. No species had ever responded to his ultimatum with defiance. They always begged. They always bargained. They always surrendered. These humans did none of those things. They challenged him. He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the city below us. Prepare to fire." But before the order could be carried out, his tactical officer spoke up with panic in his voice. "Admiral, the humans are launching. Multiple launches detected across the planet." On the display, red streaks rose from every continent. Hundreds of missiles climbed toward the sky, their nuclear warheads aimed at the alien fleet. Felt real fear for the first time in his long career. Activate all defenses, shoot them down. His ships began firing. Energy beams and projectiles reached out to destroy the incoming missiles. Many were hit. Explosions dotted the upper atmosphere like fireworks, but there were too many missiles. For every one that was destroyed, 3 more got through. The first nuclear weapon detonated against the shields of a battlecruiser. The explosion was massive, a ball of fire that lit up the sky. The shields held, but barely. Then another bomb hit, and another, and another. "Shields failing on multiple ships," the tactical officer shouted. "We cannot stop them all." Admiral made the hardest decision of his life. He ordered a retreat. The 12 warships broke orbit and fled toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, the humans continued launching missiles until every alien vessel was beyond range. Then, slowly, the weapons stopped. On the surface, people around the world watched the sky. They saw the explosions. They saw the alien ships running away. And then they understood. They had won. Captain stood on the deck of the USS Valiant and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien empire had just learned a valuable lesson. Earth was not a world to be conquered. Earth was a world that fought back. In command centers and bunkers across the planet, cheers erupted. Generals shook hands. Presidents embraced. For one brief moment, humanity was united in victory. But Commander Lisa Monroe did not celebrate. She sat at her station, watching the retreating alien fleet on her screen. They had won this battle, yes, but the war was not over. The Dominion would be back, and next time they would bring a bigger fleet. Humanity needed to be ready. The Dominion Council met in emergency session 3 days after the retreat from Earth. The great chamber was full of angry voices and frightened faces. For the first time in 3,000 years, a fleet had been forced to run from a pre-interstellar world. High Chancellor Myra sat in silence as the council members argued. Some demanded immediate revenge. Others called for caution. A few suggested abandoning the human system entirely. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the Chancellor raised her hand for silence. The chamber fell quiet. "We have all read Admiral's report," she said. "We know what happened. The question is, what do we do now?" Lord Moth, the military commander, stood to speak. His pride was wounded. His fleet had been humiliated by primitives. "We send 100 ships," he declared. "No, 200. We overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Their weapons cannot stop a force that large." Chancellor nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but at what cost? How many ships would we lose? How many lives? And even if we conquered them, what then? Do you really believe these humans would accept our rule?" Historian rose from her seat. She had spent the past 3 days studying every piece of data they had collected on the humans. Her face was pale and worried. "Chancellor, council members, I have made a detailed analysis of human history and psychology. I must share my findings, even though they are disturbing." She activated a holographic display showing images from Earth's past. Wars, battles, conflicts of every kind. The humans have been fighting for as long as they have existed. Their earliest records describe wars between tribes. As they grew more advanced, their wars grew larger. They fought with stones, then metal, then gunpowder, then explosives, then atomic weapons. Each time they found a new way to kill, they did not stop. They improved it. She showed images of tanks rolling across battlefields. aircraft dropping bombs on cities, submarines launching missiles from beneath the ocean. But here is what truly concerns me. Other species develop weapons to survive. Once the threat is gone, they stop building weapons. The humans never stop. They continue developing new and more terrible ways to destroy each other, even in times of peace. War is not something that happens to them. War is part of who they are. The council chamber was silent. Every member was thinking the same thing. "What are you saying?" Chancellor asked quietly. Took a deep breath. "I am saying that if we go to war with humanity, we will not face a species defending its home. We will face a species doing what it does best, fighting. And they have been practicing for this moment for thousands of years." On Earth, the celebrations had ended. The reality of the situation had set in. They had driven back the first attack, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. General Blake addressed the United Earth Defense Council in a secure bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. Representatives from every major nation were present. They had gathered to discuss the future of their species. "We got lucky," the general said bluntly. "The aliens underestimated us. They sent a small force expecting us to surrender. We surprised them with our response, but make no mistake, they will be back, and next time they will not underestimate us." Secretary of Defense from the United States stood to speak. She was a practical woman who had spent her career planning for worst-case scenarios. This was the worst case she had ever imagined. "We need to use the time we have wisely," she said. "Our current weapons are effective but limited. Nuclear missiles can reach orbit, but they are slow and can be shot down. We need new weapons, better weapons, weapons designed to fight in space." Dr. Maria Santos from the science team spoke next. She was in charge of analyzing the alien technology they had observed. "We have learned a great deal from the battle," she reported. "The alien ships have energy shields that can block most weapons, but our nuclear explosions overloaded their shields when we hit them with enough missiles at once. Their point defense systems are good, but they can be overwhelmed by sheer numbers." She paused, thinking carefully about her next words. "There is something else. During the battle, we detected energy signatures from their weapons and engines. This data is incredibly valuable. If we can understand their technology, we might be able to build our own versions. We could level the playing field." The room buzzed with excited conversation. The idea of humans building their own alien technology was exciting and terrifying at the same time. Commander Lisa Monroe had been working with Dr. Santos on the analysis. She raised her hand to add something. "There is one more thing we learned from their communications," she said. "The aliens were afraid of us, not just cautious, afraid. They could not understand why we had so many weapons. They could not understand why we were ready to fight. In their experience, species do not act like we do." General Blake nodded thoughtfully. "So our greatest weapon is not our missiles. It is our willingness to use them." Back on the Admiral faced a military tribunal. He stood alone in the center of a great hall while senior officers judged his actions. His career was on the line. "You retreated from a pre-interstellar species," the head judge said coldly. "You had 12 Devastator-class warships. They had nothing but primitive nuclear weapons. Explain yourself." Stood tall despite his shame. He was a proud officer, but he was also honest. "I made a tactical decision based on the situation," he replied. "The humans launched over 2,000 missiles at my fleet. Our defenses could not handle that volume of fire. If I had stayed, I would have lost ships, perhaps many ships. The cost was not worth the victory." Another judge spoke up. "You could have destroyed their cities, broken their will to fight." "With respect, I do not believe that would have worked." The Admiral paused, remembering the defiance in the human message. "These creatures do not respond to threats the way other species do. They do not submit. They fight harder. If I had destroyed one city, they would have launched everything they had at us. Every nuclear weapon on that planet. We would have won eventually, but we would have paid a terrible price. The tribunal debated for hours. In the end, they did not punish Admiral, they promoted him. He was now in charge of the Dominion's response to the human problem. His first act was to recommend a new strategy. No more attacks, no more threats. Instead, he suggested observation and study. They needed to understand the humans better before they made another move. On Earth, 5 years passed. 5 years of frantic preparation. Every nation poured resources into the new defense program. Scientists worked around the clock. Factories built new weapons. Soldiers trained for a war that no one had ever fought before. The United Earth Defense Council grew from an emergency group into a permanent organization. For the first time in history, humanity had a unified military command. Old enemies worked together. Rivals shared their secrets. The threat from beyond had done what nothing else could. It had united the human race. Dr. Maria Santos led the technology team. They had made remarkable progress. Using data from the first battle, they had developed new weapons that combined human engineering with alien principles. Orbital defense platforms now circled Earth, armed with missiles and experimental energy weapons. The first human ships capable of traveling beyond the solar system were under construction. Commander Lisa Monroe, now promoted to colonel, ran the early warning network. Satellites and listening posts watched the stars constantly, ready to detect any alien approach. She spent her days studying data and her nights wondering when the next attack would come. General Blake, now chairman of the United Earth Defense Council, gave a speech on the 5th anniversary of what people called the First Contact Battle. 5 years ago, we learned we are not alone in the universe. We learned that there are powers out there who see us as targets, who see our world as something to be conquered, but we also learned something about ourselves. He paused, looking at the crowd of soldiers, scientists, and leaders gathered before him. We learned that humanity does not surrender, we fight. It is what we have always done. For thousands of years, we fought each other. We developed weapons that could destroy our own world. Many believed this was our greatest weakness, but against the alien threat, it became our greatest strength. He raised his fist to the sky. Let them come. Let them bring their fleets and their armies. Earth will be ready, because we are not a peaceful world waiting to be saved. We are a planetary arsenal, and we will defend ourselves to the last breath, the last bullet, the last missile. The crowd roared in approval. Humanity was ready for round 2. 10 years had passed since the first alien fleet retreated from Earth. In that time, humanity had transformed itself. The old divisions remained, nations still competed, but now they did so under a shared understanding. The universe was dangerous, and only together could they survive. The Dominion had watched from afar. Their scout ships monitored the human system from a safe distance. They recorded every satellite launch, every weapons test, every new ship that left Earth's atmosphere. The reports they sent back grew more alarming with each passing year. High Chancellor Myra read the latest intelligence summary with a heavy heart. The humans had built an orbital defense network of over 300 platforms. They had colonized their moon and established military bases on Mars. Their first interstellar ships were nearly complete. In another decade, they would have a fleet capable of traveling to Dominion space. She called Admiral to her private chambers for a conversation that would decide the fate of 2 civilizations. "Admiral, I need your honest assessment," she said. "Can we conquer Earth?" Had spent 10 years studying the humans. He knew them better than any other. His answer came without hesitation. "Yes, Chancellor, we can conquer them, but I do not recommend it." "Explain." The Admiral sat down across from her. His face was tired. He had aged greatly in the past decade, carrying the weight of this decision. "The humans are different from every species we have ever encountered. They do not build weapons to defend against enemies. They build weapons because that is what they do. It is in their nature. If we invade their world, they will fight, every one of them. They will use every weapon they possess, and they possess many weapons. He leaned forward, speaking with intensity. We could destroy their cities from orbit. We could bomb them until nothing remains, but that would defeat the purpose. We conquer worlds to use them. A dead world is worthless, and if we try to occupy them, they will resist. For years, for decades, for as long as they live, we would spend more resources controlling them than we would gain from having them. Chancellor nodded slowly. She had reached the same conclusion herself. Then what do you suggest? Peace, the Admiral said simply. A treaty. We recognize their sovereignty. They agree not to threaten our territory. We trade with them, learn from them, and let them grow. One day they might be our allies, but if we make them our enemies, we will regret it forever. On Earth, the message from the Dominion arrived on a quiet morning. It was detected by Colonel Lisa Monroe's listening post and relayed to the United Earth Defense Council within minutes. General Blake read the message several times before believing it. They were offering peace, not conquest, not surrender, a genuine treaty between equals. It could be a trick, Secretary warned, a way to get us to lower our guard. Maybe, the general agreed. But look at what they are offering. Full diplomatic recognition, technology sharing, trade agreements. These are not the terms of an empire looking to conquer. These are the terms of an empire looking to avoid a fight. Dr. Maria Santos had a different perspective. She had spent years studying technology and culture. From what we know of them, this makes sense, she said. The Dominion values efficiency. They conquer worlds because it is profitable, but we have made it clear that conquering us would be incredibly costly. We are not worth the price, so they are choosing the next best option, partnership instead of conquest. The debate went on for weeks. Some argued for rejecting the treaty and continuing to build their defenses. Others pointed out that peace would give them more time to grow stronger. In the end, humanity chose to accept the offer. An ambassador would be sent to Earth. Would walk on human soil for the first time, and the two species would begin the long process of learning to live alongside each other. The ambassador chosen for this historic mission was Noor, the same analyst who had first studied Earth all those years ago. He had spent a decade learning everything he could about humans. He spoke their languages. He understood their history. He was terrified of them. But he also respected them. His ship landed outside the United Nations headquarters in New York on a bright summer day. Thousands of people gathered to watch. Soldiers stood ready, just in case. The world held its breath. Colonel Lisa Monroe was chosen to escort the ambassador from his ship to the meeting hall. She wore her dress uniform and carried herself with pride. This was the moment everything had been leading to. Noor stepped onto Earth's surface and looked around. The humans watched him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He understood the feeling. He felt the same way about them. "Welcome to Earth," Colonel Monroe said formally. "I am here to escort you to our leaders." As they walked together through the streets, Noor asked a question that had haunted the Dominion for over a decade. "Colonel, I must ask you something. I have studied your species for many years. I have read your history. I have watched your behavior. But there is one thing I cannot understand. Why? Why did you develop so many weapons? Why did you spend so much time and energy learning to kill each other?" Lisa Monroe thought about the question carefully. She had asked herself the same thing many times. "We are not naturally violent," she finally said. "We are naturally afraid. We fear each other. We fear the unknown. We fear death. And fear makes us prepare for the worst." She gestured at the city around them. Every sword, every gun, every bomb we ever built was a response to fear. We were afraid our neighbors would attack, so we built walls. We were afraid our enemies would hurt us, so we built weapons to hurt them first. We never felt safe, so we never stopped preparing. Noor considered this. Your fear drove you to build an arsenal capable of destroying yourselves many times over. Yes, we almost destroyed ourselves more than once, but our fear also saved us. When your ships appeared in our sky, we were ready, not because we expected you, but because we were always ready for something. The ambassador nodded slowly. He finally understood. The humans were not warriors because they loved war. They were warriors because they feared peace. They could never relax. They could never let their guard down. They lived in a constant state of preparation for the next threat. It made them dangerous, but it also made them survivors. The treaty was signed 3 months later. The Dominion and the United Earth Defense Council agreed to mutual recognition and non-aggression. Trade routes were established. Technology was shared. Diplomats traveled between the two civilizations. But the humans never stopped building weapons. General Blake gave a final address before his retirement. He stood before the Defense Council, looking out at the men and women who had devoted their lives to protecting Earth. "We have achieved peace with the Dominion," he said, "but let us not forget why they agreed to this peace. They did not offer us friendship because they admired us. They offered us friendship because they feared us. They looked at our world and saw something they had never seen before, a species that had turned the art of war into a science, a species that was always ready to fight." He paused, letting his words sink in. "That fear is our greatest protection. As long as the galaxy knows what we are capable of, no one will threaten us lightly. So we must maintain our strength. We must continue to develop. We must never become complacent. Peace is wonderful, but it is only maintained through power." The council applauded. They understood the lesson. Humanity had survived first contact not through wisdom or kindness, but through strength and determination. Those qualities would carry them forward into whatever challenges lay ahead. As Ambassador Noor prepared to leave Earth at the end of his mission, he sent one final report to the Dominion. It would become one of the most studied documents in their archives. "The humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They are creative and destructive. They are cooperative and competitive. They love peace but excel at war. They are afraid of everything, and that fear makes them dangerous beyond measure. I recommend that we never give them a reason to turn their weapons against us, because if we do, they will not stop until one of us is destroyed. And after studying them for 10 years, I am not certain we would win. Earth is not a world to be conquered. It is a planetary arsenal, and the galaxy should be very, very careful." His ship lifted off and disappeared into the stars. Behind him, humanity continued as it always had, building, growing, preparing. The universe had found Earth, and Earth had taught the universe a lesson it would never forget. Some species survived through peace. Humanity survived through being ready for war. And now the galaxy knew it.